Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because, well, we are embarking on a really fascinating investigation into the hidden mechanics of modern global power. We're going to completely peel back the curtain on how nations actually exert influence in the 21st century. We're moving way beyond the history textbooks and diving right into today's most massive headlines. We're talking about a concept that literally shapes the flow of the goods you buy, the energy you use, and the entire geopolitical map of the world. Let's just dive right into this with a question, okay? What do a sudden massive spike in Canadian tariffs, the icy terrain of Greenland and its rare earth minerals, and a staggering $22.8 billion port buyout in Panama have in common? I mean, at first glance, these seem like totally isolated events, right? A trade dispute over here, an environmental shift up there, some massive corporate acquisition somewhere else. But what if I told you there is an invisible thread tying every single one of these events together? Act 1. The global chessboard and the theory. So that invisible thread tying all this together, it's what academics and political scientists call American New Imperialism. To really decode these massive, seemingly unrelated global maneuvers, we've got to establish a baseline and look at a fundamental historical shift in strategy. Think about old imperialism, like the 18th and 19th centuries. That was all defined by territorial conquest. It was about planting a flag, claiming physical borders, and establishing direct colonial rule. But American New Imperialism, which started rapidly evolving in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, operates completely differently. It is marked by an intense focus on overseas expansion and economic dominance. Basically, it's not about capturing the land anymore, it's about capturing the market. The real core of this modern strategy relies on a concept called the economic taproot. This was introduced by a theorist named J.A. Hobson. The taproot theory argues that the true driving force behind imperialism isn't necessarily just some fierce nationalist desire to paint the globe your country's color. Instead, the actual engine is the profound economic need for foreign markets and investment opportunities. Modern empires, driven by the capitalist system, are seeking resources and capital above all else. Keep this taproot in mind as we go forward, because it's absolutely the key to unlocking the rest of this explainer. Act 2. Coercion on the northern frontier. To see how this theory translates into real-world action, we actually just need to look right next door to the United States, in North America. This is where theory literally collides with modern realism. Recently, US President Donald Trump threatened to raise tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum to a massive 50%. Boom. This immediately threatened the economic stability between two of the closest trade partners on the planet. In response, the Canadian province of Ontario threatened to add a 25% extra charge on electricity flowing down into the US. And what happened next is just a fascinating case study in leveraging economic dominance. President Trump called the electricity threat abusive and proposed a pretty wild solution, that Canada become America's cherished 51st state, a move that would magically make those tariffs disappear. Canada then turned around and announced $30 billion in retaliatory tariffs. So we're seeing economic leverage being used as a profound, heavy-hitting geopolitical tool. And this strategy is incredibly potent when you look at the raw data for 2024 US steel imports. Canada's sitting right there at the very top, supplying a massive 6 million tons. Steel is literally the backbone of infrastructure and manufacturing. When you threaten this specific supply chain, you aren't just adjusting a spreadsheet, You are threatening the economic lifeblood of a neighbor. The leverage just continues when we talk about aluminum imports. Once again, Canada dominates, providing 3.2 million tons. That represents more than half of all US aluminum imports. When a nation aims for economic dominance, exactly as the new imperialism theory suggests, targeting these massive, vital trade relationships is for sure the most effective way to exert pressure and force geopolitical concessions. But hey, the northern frontier isn't just about Canada. Let's shift our focus over to Greenland. Did you know Greenland is the world's largest island? It has a population smaller than most American suburbs. Historically, Denmark colonized Greenland in the early 18th century, but the US has had a solid military foothold there since World War II. They established the Pituffik Space Base, which is actually still America's northernmost military installation. Fast forward to March 2025, and President Trump is once again repeating vows to secure control of Greenland. Why now? Well, part of it is purely geography. Melting sea ice is opening up incredibly lucrative new shipping routes straight through the Arctic. Remember Hobson's economic taproot and the whole need for resources? That is absolutely the crucial driving force here. Greenland is basically sitting on a treasure trove. It has significant reserves of up to 31 rare earth minerals that are strictly necessary for the future of technology, specifically electric vehicle batteries. We're talking about highly sought-after elements like neodymium, right alongside vast oil and natural gas reserves. The pursuit of Greenland perfectly embodies new imperialism. It's not really about making Greenlanders American citizens, it's about securing exclusive access to the minerals that will literally power the next century. Act 3. The Panama Canal Proxy War. Leaving the icy north, let's travel way down to one of the most vital strategic choke points on the entire planet. To really grasp the current tension unfolding in Latin America, we just need a super quick history lesson. The USA actually built the Panama Canal between 1904 and 1914 and managed it for decades. But as part of a transition away from direct control, which is a total hallmark of moving past old imperialism, the US signed a permanent neutrality treaty in the 1970s and fully handed over control to the Panama Canal Authority in 1999. But here's the thing, even though the US doesn't formally own it anymore, a staggering 40% of total US container shipping currently travels through the Panama Canal today. It handles 4% of the entire world's maritime trade, and it generated nearly $5 billion in profit in 2024 alone. I mean, the canal is an absolute lifeline for the American economy. And because it is such a critical lifeline, it's become a massive hotspot for geopolitical friction. President Trump recently claimed that the canal was being operated by China, and he called for an end to their influence over the waterway. This immediately drew strict pushback. Panama's president, Jose Raul Molino, explicitly denied any Chinese interference, a stance that was totally echoed by China's own foreign ministry. But regardless of the rhetoric from either side, what is undeniable is that Washington feels intense, mounting pressure to secure its economic and strategic interests in this region. And that pressure, it results in action. This proxy war isn't just about the water itself, it's all about the entry and exit points. On the Caribbean side, you have the port of Cristobal, and on the Pacific side, the port of Balboa. Controlling these ports essentially means having your hands right on the valves of global trade passing through the Americas. Which brings us to the most staggering figure in this entire explainer, $22.8 billion. American asset management giant BlackRock recently agreed to spend this absolute mountain of cash to buy those exact two ports. Let's break down exactly why this matters so much. BlackRock is buying these ports from a Hong Kong-based company called CK Hutchinson. This is a massive, massive deal. It transfers 43 container ports globally across 23 countries, with Hutchinson receiving $19 billion in cash. And it all follows intense diplomatic pressure from the US to end perceived Chinese control and curb their influence in Latin America. This just brilliantly illustrates our core concept today. Modern proxy wars aren't primarily fought with soldiers and artillery on physical battlefields anymore. They are fought with capital, investment consortiums, and corporate buyouts. It is a prime real-world example of American new imperialism in action, executed through a $22 billion financial transaction. Act 4. The Invisible Empire. So, bringing all these pieces together for a moment, from the massive steel mills of Canada to the melting ice sheets of Greenland, all the way down to the shipping lanes of Panama, the new global map just isn't drawn with ink borders or military fences anymore. It's drawn with supply chains, trade tariffs, and massive influxes of capital. The economic taproot theory really holds true. Power today relies entirely on the economic lifelines that keep nations running. Whether it's leveraging a 50% tariff to try and force a political union, securing rare earth minerals for the next generation of EV batteries, or having Wall Street firms completely buy out the world's most critical shipping ports, the goal remains exactly the same: global dominance, just without the traditional colonies. So I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to chew on. In the 21st century, is an empire defined by the borders it conquers or the supply chains it controls? As we watch these headlines continue to unfold every single day, from North America down to Latin America, it's a question we must all keep asking. The invisible empire is all around us, operating right in plain sight, if you know what to look for. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes on those supply chains and keep asking the big questions. See you next time.